What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to JohnnyVTV Live. Apologies, it's been a long hiatus. All of us have been busy. It's a long summer, but you know what? We're ready to get back into a football season. We got MLB postseason coming up. Join with me, my boy, my co-host, Nick Durst. How we doing, baby?
Doing well, Johnny. I'm definitely on edge a little, though. Worried about the Mets here and how they're gonna finish off the season.
I mean, collapsing is in their blood. Now, it's funny actually because I talked to my dad like a month ago, 2 months ago, and the Braves were like 6, 7 games back, and I was like, Dad, like we should live bet the Braves to win the division. He goes, come on, what do you mean the Mets got it in the bag? I was like, yeah, you want to say that? What happened in the last like 10 years? How many times they blow the lead? But now they're fighting for their lives in the NL East. But ultimately, this is going to come down to the wire. The Braves are no joke. Obviously, the defending World Series champ. So I'm looking forward to this one.
And the last show we did, you discussed your Mariners potentially going to the World Series, you and Calabrese. So it looks like they got a good shot. I would give them a better chance than the Yankees. However, they are only like half game ahead of the Blue Jays. And so we'll see how that goes in the standings. I'm hoping the Rays catch the Yankees, though, for the East. That would be like the biggest collapse in the history of sports, I think. They had like a 18-game lead.
Well, remember, so before we took our summer hiatus, the Mariners, Joe was on this program with us. And I told him flat out, I was like, dude, and he agreed with me. He's like, yeah, man, Johnny, like I love your Mariners pick to win the AL. I definitely had him in the ALCS. That was my preseason pick, Mariners, Blue Jays, ALCS. I said I would take a ticket on the Mariners to win the AL, but ultimately Toronto was my team. And on FanDuel, you can actually take a bet right now at plus 430, I believe it is, for the Mariners to reach the ALCS. And the good thing is, in the AL, I think the only team that could beat Houston in a 5-7 game series, wherever they're going to end up playing, is Toronto. So if Toronto would take them out, the Mariners could beat any other team that's in their way. The pitching is humming right now. The offense is starting to put it together. Maron, if they didn't blow all those early games in April and May, if they could have put the hitting and the pitching together, didn't leave all those runners on base, we might be looking at a team that's approaching 100 wins right now because the Mariners left a lot of meat on the bone early on in the season.
Yeah, Jared Kelenic has given them nothing this season, so they thought he was going to be a huge star. But I think right now I would probably there's no value, but I'd pick the Astros. I think they're just so much better than anybody else in the AL, so I'd probably pick them if I had to. But yeah, I mean, the Blue Jays basically the same record as the Mariners right now, so I'm not sure why there's like no buzz around them at all. So we'll see what happens there in the AL.
Absolutely, man. And honestly, I have to talk about this. Preseason, I locked in on Dylan Cease as the AL Cy Young plus 1,800. He's been my guy all year before the season started. And I think unless you're a diehard baseball fan, and even a lot of people in the betting industry outside of Chicago or outside of like diehard baseball fans, a lot of people didn't know anything about Dylan Cease, let alone know who he was. Last year he had a lot of bad things, but he also had a lot of good things, mainly his 226 strikeouts, a 12.3 K through 9. He had a high ERA and he had high walks, but there was a lot of good stuff that we saw, mainly his electric arsenal, a fastball, high 90s, pump and shed, a disgusting slide piece, and a fall off the table, knuckle curve. Cease is looking like it, man, and I've been talking about him all year. I got a nice ticket on him. I'd love to cash it. And he, in the last couple hours, actually overtook Justin Verlander as the favorite in this award at minus 115. So I'm looking forward to that, man. Cease keeps pumping it out, and I hope he gets there.
How did you determine what you were going to watch last night, the Cease start or the first NFL game?
Not for nothing. You're talking like I didn't know I was going to have them both on. I had Cease Daddy on the computer, and I had the Sunday Night Football game on Thursday on my TV, running back and forth like an absolute maniac, yelling at everybody. The neighbors got to think there's something wrong with me, the amount of like yelling at TVs and inanimate objects that I do.
Well, and this is your season here. I'm hoping for a really exciting October, November baseball. It's been a great season. And one of your other favorite bets from the first half of last year, it's back to being automatic, and that is Jacob deGrom over on the strikeouts.
Dude, always, man. I was always with that with deGrom. It's funny because when he first came back in early August against Washington, what was the strikeout number? It was like, I think they put it at like 6.5, right? The first, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was 6.5. And I was like, you know what? I'm off of it because it's not that he won't be able to do it. It's I don't know how many innings he's going to go. I'm like, maybe he only goes 3 or 4 innings to get his win back under him. And then, against the Phillies, against the Braves, he's striking out 10, 11 guys. In his second start of the year, coming off major shoulder injury, he was set at a 9.5 K prop total, despite having only thrown 5 innings in a season. That's outrageous. I've only seen probably 2 other pitchers all year have a 9.5 K prop. And deGrom did it in his second one. And, of course, he gets 10 Ks in 6 innings against the Braves on the money. And you're like, oh, hit the over. He's going for 14. And I was like, oh, my God, here we go.
It's crazy. And too bad we're not, I would love to see him pitch a full season last year or this year because probably would have been pretty historic. But, we'll see. He's going to be a free agent, so he's going to want a big money. And, the other big free agent that's going to get a ton of money is Aaron Judge. We had this debate last year between Guerrero and Ohtani, who should be MVP. Who do you think MVP this year between Ohtani and Judge? I'm going to go with Judge because the home runs and RBIs are just insane.
All right, let me say this. I'm so sick of everybody trying to support Ohtani in this regard. Like, obviously the kid's unbelievable, right? We haven't seen anybody pitch and hit like this ever. But the fact of the matter is, how are people literally trying to sit there and weasel their way into an Ohtani MVP argument? Because if you look at it, Aaron Judge is going to hit 60-plus home runs. Not to mention, he is the sole reason why the Yankees are leading the AL East, are one of the best teams in the AL, quote-unquote, record-wise. If it wasn't for them, the Yankees might not even be a 500 ball club. He is literally willing this team to the postseason, carrying him on the back. And you know me, I'm not a huge Aaron Judge guy. I don't love Judge. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's worth the money he's going to get. And, he doesn't stay healthy long enough. And Ohtani, as good of a season he's having, the Angels are terrible. They're awful. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're about to be eliminated. If the Angels were going to make the playoffs or at least in the hunt, then sure, we have a real case for Ohtani. But people who just say Ohtani's the MVP because he's doing this is sickening to me. I can't stand them. I cannot stand these people. The simple fact of this is, Nick, if people are trying to say Ohtani's the MVP after this season, then let's not even have an MVP vote. Let's just give it to Ohtani every year because these people are going to vote for him no matter what he does, as long as he plays 140 games. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, last baseball point here for me. So obviously the Padres, they traded for Soto. He sucks so far for the Padres. He's a cheater. He's out. So that trade's blown up in their face for now. But the Angels should have traded Ohtani, but now I think he'll be traded in the offseason. So a two-parter here is, one, if you're the Angels and you're going to trade Ohtani, should you try to dump Mike Trout and his salary with them in that trade? Because you got to rebuild and get with something you can, or should they look to move Trout as well? Number 2 is the prime suitor for, I would say, for these players is probably the Mets. So if Judge doesn't go back to the Yankees, I'm sure his agent's going to call the Mets. Ohtani, he signed with the Angels because Epler was the GM there. He's now the Mets general manager. So if you are the Mets, which one of these 2 guys would you prefer to go after? Judge is going to cost a lot of money, but you don't have to give up any prospects. Ohtani, you don't have to pay this year, but you got to give up a lot of prospects, and he's probably going to get like a $600 million contract.
He's going to crack a nickel, I bet. So I would say this: it depends what's happening with Jacob deGrom, right? Because chances are you wouldn't pay Ohtani and deGrom. As great as that would be, you're already paying Frankie Lindor. I don't know. I don't think Pete Alonso's got paid yet. Pete Alonso's going to have to pay Alonso. Scherzer's getting paid like $40 million a year right now. So the fact is, like, if Steve Cohen wants to break up the piggy bank, by all means. But if they elect deGrom to go, and listen, like, deGrom's obviously, he's one of the best pitchers of all time, right? But now he's getting to that age and he's getting a lot of injuries that is it worth paying a guy who might not be able to stay on the field all year? I mean, that is a valid question. He has not been able to stay healthy. So if you let DeGrom go, now you have some funds to bring in Shohei Ohtani. He can hit, he can pitch. You're still going to have Scherzer. I still think you're going to have Carrasco. You're going to have a lot of other pieces. And Edwin Sugar Diaz has just been straight gas this year.
Don't forget, Johnny, Diaz is a free agent too. What's he going to get? He's going to break the bank. He's going to break the record for closer salary.
Diaz?
Yeah.
I would think they were going to extend Diaz, though.
Oh, I think they're going to sign him, but he's going to be the highest paid closer in the history of baseball, I think. And DeGrom, I think, could probably get 4 years, $200 million. That's $50 million a year. So there's a lot just to maintain the guys they have on the roster. The Mets are going to have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, listen, bro, they're going to have to go splurging down Fifth Ave, man. You know, it's just this is something where we have to look at and see who are we keeping, who are we giving away. Because if you're the Mets, you want to try and get one of them. Because, you know, especially we have to see what happens this year. If the Mets fall short, let's say the Mets make it to the NLCS and they lose in Game 7. You know, like they're playing 7 games. Chances are, let's say they play the Braves, or let's say they play the Cardinals or the Dodgers, and they lose in 7 games in the 7th game, and they're missing that one piece. Maybe Cohen says, hey, like, let's round them up. Let's just spend, go all in. Because at the end of the day, Scherzer, he's as great as he's been. He's starting to get some fatigue. He's starting to break down a little bit. And DeGrom, same thing. You're going to have to pay a lot of players. So it really remains to be seen how the Mets go this year. But if I'm both of your teams, I'm looking at trying to add one apiece. Maybe Trout goes to the Yankees, you know, as close to home as he could be outside of Philly. And maybe Ohtani goes to the Mets.
Yankees, they better re-sign Judge. Otherwise,
I disagree.
You think they should let Judge go? Let him walk?
Yeah, real quick, I'll tell you why. Because Aaron Judge is having an unbelievable season. He's having one of the best seasons that an American League player has ever had, and in the MLB as well. But he's going to be 31, I think, at the end of next year. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy for the most of his career. The last time we've seen anything close to this was 2017. So, you know, he's a physical specimen, but his body's probably not going to hold up. And you're giving a guy all this money based off something he's done once in 5 years. So I don't think that you're going to get your return on investment. And, you know, I would say thank you and try and get somebody else. Don't pay that $300-400 million that you're going to end up having to pay this guy, because chances are you're going to be looking at 120, 130 games maybe per season, you know, over the duration of the contract.
Maybe they'll sign Carlos Correa. He's going to probably opt out.
Maybe. Listen, Correa is good. I said this about Correa when he signed with Minnesota. Correa is good. He's a good shortstop, but I don't think he is the missing piece for any team. I think a lot of people think he's better than he is. He's not. He's a good quality shortstop that is in addition to a World Series team, but I do not believe he is the missing piece in 9 out of 10 cases.
I think between Correa, Judge, and Ohtani, at least one of them is going to be a Met next season.
I would think so. I would think Papa Steve Cohen is trying to spend a little bit of money. But you know who else spends a lot of money?
You on your bets.
Yes. The LA Rams. Last night, they made me eat my words. 31-10. They got smacked across the face by the Buffalo Bills, the Super Bowl favorite. What's your reaction to this game here? Are you surprised at all?
Well, this game really came down to Jalen Ramsey a lot. And I mean, the only way I could think of to describe this guy is basically like he reminded me of a winter coat in the desert. Dead weight and absolutely useless. And that's what he was last night. 7 times they targeted him and they got big plays. You know, I've always been big on Josh Allen and the Bills, so this doesn't surprise me. The Bills are ready for this. They prepared. You know, this could have been different if this was like a Week 12 game, but this was Week 1, so you have more time to prepare. You don't have to worry about the cross-the-country flights because they probably got in as early as they wanted, looser schedule. So would I overreact to this and say, you know, the Rams stink, the Bills are great? Not necessarily, because the NFC stinks. So the Rams are going to be in the mix, undoubtedly. I think the Bills are going to be the best team in the AFC, though. But I don't know. The Rams, their offensive line left a lot to be desired last night.
So they disappointed me to no end. They had how many months to prepare for this? I gave out the stats. Sean McVay, 5-0 in week ones. The Super Bowl winners in the last 11 Super Bowl winners are 8-3 straight up with an 11 average margin of point average margin of victory in the first game of the next season. It's not the fact that the Rams lost and I had money on them and I lost, and I put this play out so confidently and they lost. It's the way they played. I understand they're playing a great team in Buffalo that has a lot of motivation coming off that gut-wrenching loss to the Chiefs in the AFC divisional game last year. However, how are you Sean McVay and you have your team so unprepared? Andrew Whitworth retiring, I knew it would be something they had to deal with, but I didn't think they would be having to deal with it to this point, to this magnitude. Joe Noteboom, the entire left side of the line, was worked by Von Miller. And I got to be honest, Von Miller, to me, coming into the year, still had a lot left in the tank. I did not think he'd be making this kind of an impact this early to this degree. McVay did not have his team prepared whatsoever. He ran the ball way too much on first downs, especially early on, did not do enough passing. And even though the Rams defense was able to get a lot of turnovers and they got a lot of breaks, they still couldn't capitalize. It was 10-10 at half. And the biggest thing that annoyed me was the fact that Sean McVay kept going 5 wide, knowing how bad Von Miller was cooking them. And Stafford had no time. Sacked 7 times. And let me tell you something. Every time Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson was out of the backfield, flanking Stafford to provide a chip, that was providing some relief. But he kept going away from it. And defensively, Jalen Ramsey, man, he got murdered last night in coverage. Allowed a perfect 158.3 passer rating. Yeah, you could chalk up that deep tutty to Stephon Diggs. He was expecting, it was cover 3. He was expecting help, whatever. But overall, it was not good. It's week 1, though. I don't want to react. I hope the Rams can address the situation because I still have them going far this year.
Well, I think the Rams are missing Odell Beckham Jr., who was actually fantastic in the Super Bowl until he got injured. So hopefully for them, they could sign him when he's cleared week 8, 9, 10, whatever it's going to be. But I think everybody should be going after Odell Beckham Jr. I think if the Bills got Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, that would be ridiculous with him and Diggs going against the Chiefs in the playoffs again. That's going to be a big piece to keep an eye on midway through the season as a free agent pickup.
Absolutely. Moving on here, we have our first game. A few games I'm looking at. We could touch on a couple more if you want. It just so happens these are some of my favorite bets of the week. Other big profile games, I didn't really have a true lean or play that I loved at this moment. New York Giants catching 5.5 at the Tennessee Titans. Over under, looking at 43.5. What's your lean in this game?
I'm going to go under, but I will take the Titans plus 5.5. I just don't see how the Giants are going to produce anything offensively this season. We'll see if Daniel Jones can even make it through the game. If he does, he's going to have a huge fumble or interception. That's what he always does. I'm going to see how Barkley does. I want, let this guy run until the wheels fall off this year. He's going to be a free agent. Just give him the ball. That's really the only way I could see the Giants, making this a competitive game. I think they'll probably lose by at least 10, maybe 14 or 17 points. So, yeah, I like the Titans in this one. And are the Giants going to stop Derrick Henry? No.
All right, so let me explain something to you. I tried to tell you this how many times last year. And it doesn't matter what it looks like on paper. Anytime a road team is getting 5 or 5.5 points exactly, you always take it. It's not always going to hit, but you always take it because it usually hits. Perfect example, last year in this spot, teams were 9-1 against the spread. The last 3 years, they're 31-21 against the spread. The reason why I like the Giants here is because Brian Daboll's coming in. The Giants actually have a good nucleus of weapons on offense. They got Evan Neal along with Andrew Thomas anchoring both sides of the offensive line. Daniel Jones is by no stretch Josh Allen. However, I think the way Daboll helped improve Josh Allen from 2018 to 2019, limiting the turnovers, the stupid mistakes, I think the same thing could be said for Daniel Jones in a similar trajectory. Not saying the ceiling's going to be the same. It's like a Walmart version of Josh Allen. I think Jones could play a lot better. Saquon Barkley, man, he's supposedly back and healthy. Dable said he's going to use him all over the field as a receiver, in the slot, running, whatever. I think the Giants are going to stand up for this one. I think there's going to be a new philosophy. And Tennessee, for all it's worth, they had a lot of fluky things go their way that's probably not sustainable for this year. They're going to have to negatively regress to the mean. The Titans lost their inside linebacker, one of their best players, Harold Landry, tore his ACL, done. They lost 2 key offensive linemen. Yes, they get Derrick Henry back. I think he'll have a good game. Lost A.J. Brown. Robert Woods coming off a torn ACL. Treylon Burks playing his first game. Ryan Tannehill is an interception machine when he wants to be. The Titans secondary was not good. I think there's going to be certain things that kind of come back to earth a little bit. That's why I think the Giants are actually going to cover this game. I don't think they'll win, but I think they'll get this 5.5.
We'll see. I think the Giants are going to be one of the worst teams in football this year, unfortunately. And just sticking in the AFC South real quick, your guy, Matty Ice, with the Colts, I mean, you got to take the over on their win total. I saw it as low as 9.5. I mean, I think they're going to just run away with the AFC South this year.
I'll put it to you this way. I think the Colts are going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags finished second at the division. Maybe 7 wins, 8 wins. I think
Travis Etienne is going to be huge.
I think Doug Peterson's going to have this team ready for next year, and he's going to put down, like Brian Daboll will for the Giants, a lot of good building blocks this year so they can step up into the limelight next season. Moving on here, we have the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Packers, -1.5 favorite, over under 47.5. Who do you like here?
I know with the Vikings, they're gonna win outright too. I think this is if this could be the year where you finally say, I said every year, the Packers have no weapons for Aaron Rodgers. They're not gonna win. Then they win the division. That's easy 13 wins. But I think this is the year. I think the Vikings have a great shot. I mean, I could not tell you who Aaron Rodgers has at wide receiver. I do not know who he's going to throw to. I'm sure I'll still figure it out. He'll do great. But I like the Vikings here. New coach, going to come in motivated. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game as well. So I'm going to go in the over. I can see these teams scoring like a 30-25 type of game or something like that. But I got to see these Packers play before I really can get a feel on them. Because I don't know. I mean, we know Rodgers is great, back-to-back MVPs, but I can't name one player on the offense other than him.
Okay. Yeah. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. They're going to have Lazard. Maybe I don't know if he's going to play.
Backs, yeah.
Christian Watson, Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, Romeo Dobbs, Tunyon. May or may not play. I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, and since 2019, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers without Devontae Adams are 7-0. Rodgers is a 19 TD to 1 pick ratio in those games. Rodgers knows how to adjust for deficiencies. He makes up for lack thereof deficiencies of his teams. That's what he does. He is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. That being said, the Vikings were one of those teams that I had high. I started talking about him in May or June. I started writing about him more so in June, that they were going to win the division this year. I really liked them. I like their win total. I think the Packers are still going to be good. They're just going to find a way because they're a very good defense. Good defense, great running backs, and they got one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. That being said, the Vikings have head coach Kevin O'Connell, pass-happy offense. I love Cousins this year. Justin Jefferson is going to be hitting the gritty a lot. He's my boy, my yards leader. It's going to be big. The only concern I have is the offensive line. They lost a couple guys, and I just need to know that they're going to hold up against that Green Bay front seven. However, last season, they put up a 34-piece against the Packers in a win at home, close game. I think a similar trajectory could be in line. I like the Minnesota Vikings here. If I said they're going to win the NFC North, which I did, now's a good time to start. The Vikings are 4-2 straight up and against the spread in the Packers in their last 6 games. Wrapping up with the final game here, we have the New Orleans Saints -5 at the Atlanta Falcons, over under 43. Who do you like here?
See, I was stunned because I saw you pick the Saints to win the division. I could not believe it. I was absolutely floored when I saw that. This game, I don't think it's going to be a good game, so I'm going to go with the under. I'll take the Falcons +5, though. I think Mariota is going to do enough, so it's going to be a really, really competitive game. And I'm happy to see Mariota finally get another chance to be a starter in the NFL, because if you looked at the quarterbacks last year and the year before, I think he was definitely better than a lot of the people who were starting the league.
Okay, so there's an interesting stat going around. Since 2015, divisional home underdogs in week 1 are covering at a 78.3% clip. That's extraordinary. In that same filling, there are 3 teams that fit that description this week: the Vikings, the Texans, and the Falcons. Now, nobody in sports betting or football or any of this business knows the Falcons like I do. I will say that 1,000% confidently. Nobody knows the Atlanta Falcons like I do in this business, unless you're a beat reporter. The basic trends do not apply to this team. They just don't. They find different ways to lose and to not cover, like any team I've ever seen in my entire life. If there's 3 teams that fit that description, I think 2 of them cover the home dogness. I think the Texans will cover against the Colts, and I think the Vikings will do it against the Packers. I do not think Atlanta will cover against the Saints. New Orleans has a top 5 rush defense each of the last 4 years. Atlanta will not be able to run the ball. Maybe Mariota gets a little bit here with his legs. Marshawn Lattimore is probably going to draw Drake London, take him out week 1, and they're probably going to double Kyle Pitts otherwise. I like Jameis Winston. I think he's going to have a big year. Alvin Kamara is going to destroy this defense. I like New Orleans here. They're going to control both sides of the ball on the line of scrimmage. And the Saints are my obviously pick to win the NFC South, but I think they're live to be the NFC top seed. I really do. I think New Orleans is going to have a big, big season. And, people are sleeping on them. If Jameis Winston gets back to what he was doing last year and the defense stays healthy and does well, they added Honey Badger. I hate the Saints, but I think they're going to be really good this year. And they're 6-2 straight up and against the spread in the last 8 games against Atlanta. There's no Matt Ryan. Marcus Mariota, man, he's going to be harassed under pressure. This Falcons offensive line, I doubt will hold up. So I do like New Orleans here to win and cover the spread. Matter of fact, I have several teasers locked up in the Saints winning this week, so don't blow it. So as we're wrapping up the show here, let's get the Gambling Guinea's best betting trend. I'm going with one of my favorite plays, player prop, Jalen Hurts over 45.5 rushing yards against the Detroit Lions. Last season in the 44-6 victory, he had 71 yards on the ground against these guys. He had 44 yards in 2 games, and he had 47 yards or more in 10 games. So, matter of fact, speaking here, I think Hurts is going to be ready to run. The Lions have a bottom 3 rush defense, and we know what Nick Sirianni wants to do with Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. They want to keep the ball on the ground. I do think they'll air it out a little bit more, but Jalen Hurts is ready to bust loose against a terrible Lions rush defense. Last but not least here, we got the emerging player of the night, Von Miller. I had to tip my cap. He single-handedly wrecked the game. He took the Rams offense away. He neutralized them by himself pretty much, contributing to 7 sacks for Matthew Stafford, creating pressure all night. Josh Allen was pretty great. Diggs was pretty good. Gabe Davis was good. Singletary was solid. But I have to say it's Von Miller. He made an immediate impact. He was the reason why the Buffalo Bills were able to hold off the Rams, because even though the Rams defense wasn't playing that well aside from some turnovers, if the Rams could score, it's a different game. But Von Miller made sure that didn't happen. So with that being said, Nick, what are some of your final thoughts?
Well, I'm really interested to see how the AFC East shakes out 2-3-4. I think the Patriots, I don't think are going to be very good. The Dolphins, I don't think are going to be very good. And the Jets, I don't think it'll be very good. Although with the Jets, I really do like Zach Wilson, so I like what they did with the backfield. I just don't know about their coaching staff. So just curious to see how that plays out. But I think it's going to be the Bills are going to coast to the AFC East Championship. They're going to win between 13 to 15 games, I think.
Okay, so I'm not overreacting to the Bills like you are. They played well.
I'm not overreacting.
They really didn't play great, to be honest. They had a lot of things.
I think they have 6 wins in the division itself. They already have one last night, so that's 7 wins already.
I think the Patriots will probably get their number. I think they'll get them once. But in any case, I would probably say I'm looking forward to seeing what the new trends are going to be in 2022. Sometimes it takes about a month or so to find out what the betting trends are for a season, and you need a sample size. So I'm going to be looking very aggressively early to see what we can look for to get an edge on this year. Like, for example, last year we saw that the Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions were 2 of the best covering teams. Who's going to be that this year? Who is going to cover 90% of their games, 85% of the games, 75% of the games? I want to find that out. I want to make some money this year. I'm looking forward to a big, big NFL season. And I'm looking forward to having you on again, Nick. I know I got a new co-host, but you got your own ventures going on. Really appreciate you coming on, joining me. Looking forward to have you. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick _Durst. Have a great night.